In this life, we find ourselves drawn to others, people who make us feel whole, people we wish to keep close. But we must remember, no bond, no matter how deep, should ever be built on force or fear. It is not in our nature to hold someone against their will, to demand their presence when their heart is no longer aligned with ours. You see, love, true love, is not a cage. It's a garden. It grows freely, nurtured by mutual respect, by understanding, by the willingness to let each other be, to let each other breathe. We all have the right to make our own choices, to find our own path, even if that means parting ways. When we force someone to stay, we rob them of their agency, their dignity. We trap them, and in doing so, we trap ourselves. You cannot make someone feel something they do not feel. You cannot demand someone's time or affection if they've chosen to walk a different road. And that's okay. The journey they're on may not include us, and that's not a reflection of our worth, it's simply the nature of life. So never try to hold on to someone who no longer wishes to be held. Understand that their departure, their desire to leave, is not a personal attack, but a step toward their own growth, their own truth. Love, at its core, is the freedom to choose. And sometimes the greatest act of love is letting go. Remember this: relationships built on mutual respect and choice will flourish in ways we can't always see at the moment, but we will feel their strength in the peace they bring, both to ourselves and to others. Every person has the inherent right to make their own decisions, especially when it comes to relationships and personal connections. To force someone to stay, whether in a friendship, romantic relationship, or professional setting, is to disregard their autonomy, their fundamental ability to choose for themselves. At the core of every healthy interaction is mutual respect, and that respect cannot exist when one party is coerced into staying against their will. It's essential to understand that a person's feelings, desires, and boundaries should never be imposed upon or disregarded. People are not objects to be held onto out of fear, dependency, or selfishness. They are individuals with their own thoughts, needs, and rights to choose their own paths. The act of forcing someone to stay often stems from a place of insecurity or fear of loss. However, this fear is not a justification for controlling another person's actions. When we try to hold on to someone out of our own need for validation or comfort, we fail to acknowledge that they too are human beings with their own emotions and needs. It's easy to forget that relationships should not be about possession or control, but about connection and understanding. Each person in a relationship deserves the freedom to make their own choices and decisions about where they place their time and energy. When we force someone to remain, we also violate the very principles that make relationships healthy. Respect for personal boundaries is key to fostering trust and emotional well-being. If someone is made to feel obligated to stay in a situation, it breeds resentment and a sense of being trapped. This dynamic can erode the quality of the relationship over time, replacing love and trust with a sense of obligation or guilt. Genuine affection or connection cannot thrive under those conditions, as it is rooted in choice, not compulsion. Respecting a person's decision to leave or to distance themselves allows both parties to have the space they need to grow, reflect, and ultimately find what truly fulfills them. Forcing someone to stay denies them this opportunity. In doing so, you not only risk losing them, but also stifling their potential for personal growth and happiness. True love, friendship, or partnership is built on understanding that each individual has their own journey, and part of that journey may at times involve parting ways. True love, whether it's romantic, familial, or platonic, thrives on the freedom of choice. It is not about possession or control, it's about allowing each person to be themselves and to navigate their own path. When we force someone to stay in a relationship out of our own need for attachment or comfort, we distort the very nature of what love should be. Love that is rooted in freedom is not about clinging to another person for the sake of our own security, but rather about supporting them, in becoming the best version of themselves. When you truly love someone, you understand that their happiness and well-being are paramount, even if it means letting them go. Love doesn't require that you hold on to someone with a tight grip, fearing that they may slip away. It's about creating a space where both individuals can grow, evolve, and pursue their own individual goals and dreams while still supporting each other along the way. True love is not about creating a dependency, but about nurturing independence while remaining connected at the heart. In relationships where one person feels pressured to stay or act in a way that doesn't reflect their authentic self, the foundation of that relationship begins to crumble. Emotional manipulation or coercion may work in the short term, but it leads to resentment and a breakdown in communication. People are not meant to be owned, they are meant to be partners in life's journey, free to make their own choices. By forcing someone to stay, you are denying them the right to decide their own path, and ultimately you're depriving the relationship of its genuine essence. Love that is truly unconditional is one that embraces the idea of freedom. It understands that individuals are complex and evolving, and sometimes that evolution leads people in different directions. If we truly care about someone, we want them to be the best version of themselves, even if that means their journey doesn't include us. In fact, allowing someone to make their own choices, to explore their own desires, and to leave if that is what is needed is perhaps the greatest act of love. By fostering a relationship based on freedom, we create a bond that is built on trust and respect. Only when both people feel free to be themselves can love flourish in its purest form. Emotional well-being is a cornerstone of any healthy relationship, and it should never be compromised for the sake of keeping someone around. Forcing someone to stay in a relationship against their will can cause deep emotional harm to both individuals involved. The person being pressured to stay may begin to feel trapped, overwhelmed, or guilty for wanting to leave, even if the relationship is no longer fulfilling for them. On the other hand, the one doing the forcing may feel frustration or resentment, but also fear the loss of the relationship, which can further cloud their judgment and lead to unhealthy behavior. In either case, the emotional health of both individuals is at risk. When someone is coerced into staying, their sense of autonomy and self-worth is undermined. They may begin to question their own feelings or feel guilty for wanting to make a decision that prioritizes their happiness. This kind of emotional turmoil can lead to anxiety, sadness, or even depression over time. The person may feel like their desires and boundaries no longer matter, and they must sacrifice their own emotional well-being to keep the other person happy. This dynamic can erode any sense of trust or comfort in the relationship, leaving both individuals feeling disconnected and emotionally drained. Forcing someone to stay in a relationship also creates a toxic environment that hampers open communication. When one person feels obligated to remain, they may start to hide their true feelings to avoid confrontation or to prevent further emotional pressure. Instead of feeling free to express their thoughts and needs, they may begin to suppress their emotions, leading to resentment and a lack of transparency. Over time, this can create a breakdown in communication, making it even harder for both people to truly understand each other and address their needs. Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, which includes respecting each other's emotional boundaries and decisions. Forcing someone to stay not only disregards their emotions, but also stifles the natural flow of connection that comes from understanding and sharing feelings. People thrive in environments where they are supported in making choices that align with their values and desires, and a relationship based on respect and emotional well-being encourages growth and personal fulfillment. If we truly care about someone, we need to prioritize their happiness, even if it means letting them go, because only then can both individuals find peace and emotional health. People change over time, and so do their needs, desires, and circumstances. This is a natural part of life, and it's something that should be embraced, not feared. Forcing someone to stay in a relationship because of past connections or memories can ignore the reality that individuals grow, evolve, and sometimes change in ways that make staying together no longer feasible. Just because a relationship worked at one point doesn't mean it will continue to do so indefinitely. Life is dynamic, and so are the people in it. As people progress, they might find that their goals, values, or dreams no longer align with those of the person they're with, and that's okay. The beauty of life is that we all have the capacity to evolve. Our experiences, both positive and negative, shape who we are. And sometimes as we grow, we realize that certain relationships no longer serve us in the way they once did. This could be due to differing life goals, changes in personal interests, or even just a shift in emotional needs. Forcing someone to stay in a relationship despite this inevitable change is not only unfair to them but can also prevent both people from moving forward in a way that supports their growth. When someone feels that their desires or evolving needs are being dismissed in favor of maintaining the status quo, it can lead to frustration, resentment, and a sense of being unheard. They may begin to feel suffocated, as if they are being held back from becoming the person they are meant to be. In some cases, this can even lead to a loss of self-identity, as they become more focused on pleasing the other person or keeping the relationship intact, rather than nurturing their own personal development. When one person in a relationship is not allowed the space to change or grow, it places unnecessary pressure on both individuals. The person being held onto may begin to feel resentment or guilt, while the one doing the forcing may feel insecure or afraid of losing someone they care about. This creates a cycle of tension that ultimately stifles both people's ability to fully thrive. If someone's growth means they need to leave a relationship, it should be seen not as a failure but as an opportunity for both people to embrace new experiences and continue growing in their own ways. Change is not the enemy of love, stagnation is. Embracing each other's growth is a sign of true respect and love. It's about accepting that the people we care about may change in ways that no longer align with our relationship, and that's a natural part of life. Sometimes the most loving and selfless act we can perform in a relationship is to let someone go. This might sound counterintuitive, especially if we are deeply attached to that person. But the reality is that holding on too tightly can prevent both individuals from reaching their full potential. Letting go, when the time is right, gives both parties the freedom to explore their own paths, grow independently, and find happiness in ways they might not have been able to while staying in a relationship out of obligation. Letting someone go doesn't mean giving up on them or erasing the love you shared. It's about recognizing that their journey might no longer align with yours, and that holding them back is not fair to either of you. It's a recognition that love isn't about possession or control, but about allowing someone to be the best version of themselves, even if that means they must walk away from the relationship. True love thrives in freedom, and in some cases the most loving choice is to support someone's decision to leave, allowing them to pursue their own growth and happiness. By letting someone go, we show that we care about their personal well-being and respect their right to choose what's best for them. It might be painful, and it might feel like a loss, but in the long run, it can be the most freeing decision for both individuals. Both partners are given the space to explore new opportunities, to heal, and to rediscover themselves without the constraints of a relationship that may no longer serve them. This act of letting go can lead to healthier relationships in the future, as both people are able to come to terms with their own needs and desires without being held back by guilt, fear, or resentment. Letting go also allows for emotional healing. Sometimes people stay in relationships out of fear of being alone or out of a sense of obligation, even when they know the relationship is no longer fulfilling. By choosing to let go, both people are allowed to process their emotions, reflect on their personal needs, and begin to heal. This space for growth and reflection often leads to clarity about what they want in future relationships. Letting go doesn't signify the end of love, it signifies the courage to trust that By setting each other free, both individuals can ultimately find greater happiness, fulfillment, and peace. Trusting the process is one of the most important aspects of maintaining healthy relationships, especially when it comes to letting someone go. Life has a natural flow, and sometimes that flow means relationships evolve or come to an end. Though it can be difficult to accept in the moment, trusting that things will unfold as they are meant to can bring a sense of peace and acceptance. Trying to force someone to stay when they've chosen to leave disrupts that natural flow and often leads to greater emotional turmoil. Understanding that both individuals have their own paths to follow can help ease the pain of separation and bring a deeper sense of understanding about the importance of choice and growth. Trusting the process requires letting go of the need to control every outcome. It's natural to want to hold on to something or someone that we care deeply about, especially when there is fear of the unknown or the pain of potential loss. But the more we try to control the direction of a relationship, the more we resist the natural course of things. Relationships are meant to be dynamic, and people are constantly changing, growing, and evolving. When one person feels compelled to leave, it's often because they recognize a need for change or personal growth that cannot be met in the current dynamic. By trying to stop that change, we are essentially preventing them from reaching their fullest potential. The trust in the process also involves trusting both yourself and the other person to make decisions that are best for both parties. If someone decides to leave, it's important to trust that they are making a choice that will ultimately serve their own well-being. It's an act of self-respect, not a rejection of the relationship or the love that has been shared. Similarly, trusting the process means knowing that your own growth is not dependent on the presence of another person. You too have the right to explore, evolve, and find happiness in your own way. This trust in the natural course of life helps both people heal and move forward. Forcing someone to stay can create a cycle of emotional dependency that prevents both individuals from growing independently. By trusting that things will unfold as they are meant to, both people can embrace the opportunity for new experiences, new connections, and personal transformation. Life has a way of bringing us what we need, even if it doesn't always align with our initial desires. Trusting the process allows us to release control and embrace the uncertainty, knowing that growth, healing, and happiness are often found on the other side of letting go. In the end, relationships like life itself are about growth, understanding, and mutual respect. Forcing someone to stay or clinging too tightly only prevents both individuals from reaching their full potential. True love, friendship, and connection are about allowing space for change, embracing freedom, and trusting that each person has their own journey to follow. By letting go when necessary, we allow the relationship to evolve, and if it is meant to continue, it will do so naturally. The greatest gift we can give to those we care about, and to ourselves, is the freedom to choose, to grow, and to be who we are meant to be. Thank you for allowing me to share these thoughts with you. May we all find the courage and wisdom to trust in the process of life and love, knowing that letting go is not an end, but often the beginning of something new.